I used to be a neurosurgeon, and I quit. These surgeries, they weren't fixing the problem. The focus of medicine, it wasn't in healing, it was in making money from surgeries and pills. Wait a second, this isn't quite what I thought it was.
Our medical system is broken. I think the older I get, the more I see why people want to detach.
It's all well and good in theory, going off the grid and just quitting your job. But in practice, what must it be like?
I know what's going on. Wait, to actually heal, you need to eat a certain way, sleep a lot, not be stressed out, have a good social network, exercise, move your body. If you do all those things, you heal.
Hey everybody, we wanted to watch this epic video which I saw recently. It's from a few months back, but it recently came on my radar. It's called I Was an MIT Educated Neurosurgeon. Now I'm unemployed and alone in the mountains. How did I get here?
So I used to be a neurosurgeon. I went to college at MIT and did 4 years of medical school and 6 years of neurosurgery training. And I was a neurosurgeon for almost 10 years. After all of that, so that's 20 years of my life. And I quit. I quit last year, and nobody understood why I quit.
I reckon this video went viral. It's got over 15 million views because everyone's been in that situation where might not be in the medical industry, but they've been in a field of work and they're just like, I want to quit. I hate my job. I don't know if any of you have experienced that feeling before.
I don't want anybody to go to my LinkedIn and see all my jobs. So I'm just going to say, I think we've all been there at some point. But imagine to invest that much time of your life in the education and practice and the money. And then to go, I'm walking away from this.
So true. So true.
There's so many people with back problems, neck pain, back pain, nerve pain down their arms and legs. Surgery might make them better for a little bit, but it didn't address what caused that disc to wear out, or the disc to bulge, or the joint to get loose, or the disc in between the bones to disappear, and then the bones are rubbing on each other. Those surgeries, they don't address that.
One of the comments I found pretty funny was, you did not quit, my friend. You moved on, which takes courage. I have a similar story. Take care. And then there's literally thousands of comments of people basically saying, I've quit my job because the medical industry is whatever, it's BS, it doesn't work. Obviously, we all acknowledge here the medical system, hospitals have a massive role to play. But I think we've all experienced this kind of reductionist medical model. Shabnam, I know you're working in this field. What's your take on this?
I think in the medical field, we look at specialties, right? Almost a segmentation of the human body. Whereas the human body doesn't work in segments, does it? It works synergistically. It is a comprehensive system that works well together, right? And oftentimes when we're trying to address issues, we just look at one particular system, one particular structure and go, that's the problem. That's the root. But that's not always the root. I think that's what we're seeing here, not just in medical practice, but in life in general, that oftentimes we're seeing a symptom and we think the cause is one thing when it's not really that. And to really find the root cause, we need to take this holistic approach. I'm going to say what he's doing comes from a really great line of privilege, right? The capacity to say, I'm going to leave my job, do this, find the root cause, diving to all these doctors and holistic practitioners that can tell me, hey, what's the problem with me, is a sense of privilege. But I think what he dives into next is ways that we as human beings, even without the privilege of money and access, can do things to change our ways to find what the root cause is.
The surgeries we're doing is like this. It's like you have a house and the roof has a leak somewhere, and rain water is coming down into the house and it's ruining the drywall, and you can see it. You can see water damage. The surgeries that I could do were like going into that house, tearing down that drywall, ripping out the moldy insulation, putting in brand new insulation, and rebuilding the wall, but not fixing the leak in the roof. That's what I was doing. And the way I realized that is that I could do a perfect surgery and some people would get better, some people would stay the same, some people would get worse, even though I did the exact same perfect surgery.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure all of us have experienced that, whether through ourselves or family members, maybe like type 2 diabetes or heart disease or something like that. And just trying to get through to them that, yes, you don't want to dismiss like the medical model at all, especially because there's so many different diseases and stuff. It's hard to be qualified in everything, right? And obviously everything can't be prevented or reversed, obviously, with a plant-based diet and exercise and meditation and stuff like that. But when you actually dig into the data, every time I'm like, wow. Even last year, Dean Ornish, she's already shown you can reverse the progression of heart disease. Last year showed you could do the same thing on Alzheimer's and dementia. It's just incredible. And so this is a guy who is experiencing that firsthand, and he's having that aha moment, right?
This drywall analogy, how I kind of see this is, like, for example, let's say you turn your head to the left and you got limited mobility. What do we do in order to get more mobility? Oftentimes we start to see people turn through their spine in order to get that requisite cervical spine mobility. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Like, for me to get more neck movement, I'm going to turn my spine to make sure my neck turns in that direction. If we really want to get better, we need to go, wow, we've got limited cervical rotation. We've got limited shoulder flexion. Let's work on that before we start breaking, cutting, twisting, modifying other systems in other places, right? And so I think that's what he's saying here is you're seeing the problem or the symptom in this area, and I may replace it and fix it, like the drywall, but it's not fixing the problem.
But I just started asking patients, like, everything I could think of. What do you normally do? What's your job? What do you eat? What do you drink? Do you smoke? Do you illicit drugs? Do you have a lot of friends? How's your family? Are you stressed out? Do you sleep well? I just would ask all my patients a whole bunch of questions about their life. And what I found was that patients that did certain things would get better, and patients who wouldn't do those things would get worse. That my surgery might help them out a little bit, but they would get worse after that. Diet seemed to be the most important. The food that people ate and the liquids they drank. The ones that would heal up, they had a low salt diet. They wasn't really salty. And most of them ate mostly plant-based foods, like vegetables, fruits, whole grains, beans. This is not like a vegan rant or anything. I'm not vegan. I enjoy a steak or sushi every once in a while. I'm just describing what I saw over 9 years of doing spine surgery. People that got better were having a mostly plant-based diet. They weren't eating too much animal foods, and they were definitely not eating salty, and they would do things that would make them sweat, like exercise, being outside, hiking like this, going to a sauna, or they live in a warm place. They didn't smoke, they didn't drink much. They usually had a good social support, like loved ones, family members, children, friends, like a way to socialize. They would sleep like 8 hours every day, and they weren't stressed out. Or if they had a stressful job or something, they found a way to be mindful or meditate or just be present and release the stress back into the universe.
I'm trying to think what is the most stressful thing in my job. Sarah, what's the most stressful thing in your job?
The most stressful thing in my job is, Klaus, you.
Working with me.
I think working at plant-based news is not really that stressful, to be honest. It's more just battling the trolls every day is probably my most stressful thing. Internet trolls.
Yeah, because some of the stuff you do, right, where you go into vegan restaurants and you're ostensibly out there as a vegan eater, you must get a lot of hate.
Well, yeah, exactly. So it's just trying not to take that on board. Just like he said, just let it go back into the universe.
What about you, Shabnam?
What makes me do less stress? Honestly, activity, physical activity. And what I noticed is that if I don't do it first, take care of me first, prioritize me, the rest of my day in serving others just wipes me out. It's association not only just with the many physiological benefits in terms of metabolic, cardiovascular, muscular, but the impact on dopamine, right? Think about it. What motivates you to do things in life? How your dopamine stores, your dopamine reserves, how much dopamine you have, and having chronic dosages continuously over time really helps build a large reserve of your dopamine stores. And so when we talk about being motivated to do things, this is where we say physical activity plays such a huge role. So put you first, because then you have the capacity to be better for everyone else in your life.
Do you know what else it made me think of when I heard him talking there was the research that we spoke about before, the blue zones research, because those were the same things, right, that came up, like what they ate. It was mostly whole foods, plant-based. They did exercise, mostly not very high salt intake, or they lived somewhere that had like a big massive hill. So they were just constantly, doing exercise. It was also community was a really big deal in those areas. So
Right.
yeah, it makes a lot of sense, doesn't it?
But these surgeries, they weren't fixing the problem. They would help some people feel better. Some people would feel the same. Some people would be worse. A lot of people I saw in clinic, I had to tell them that, surgery's not going to help you. And of course, they would be devastated because I was sort of their last hope. That all weighed really heavy because I thought I was going to relieve suffering. I became a doctor to help people. And I remember at the beginning of medical school, there was a ceremony, and we all took a Hippocratic oath. And I remember there was one of the older faculty docs, and he said, your job as doctors is to relieve suffering. It's not to do a surgery or give a pill. It's to relieve suffering. That might be from doing a surgery or a pill, but it might be just listening, acknowledging what someone's going through. That stuck with me all through medical school and residency and afterwards. And I did relieve some suffering, but I saw so much more suffering that I couldn't relieve, even if I tried to do surgery.
What he's saying is, look at the epigenetic factors. It's not like your parents and your DNA. Yes, of course, that plays a huge role in how you live and how you function. But what he's saying here is all of these other variables that we can very much control. These are the ones that if you start to manipulate every day and focus on them, you could start to see an increase in your quality of life.
Isn't it so interesting that like even the surgical outcomes are better for those who had all those things in place? He said he did the exact same surgery on two separate people, but the one it would work on is the person who was exercising, who was eating mostly whole foods, who had community. Like you wouldn't really, I guess it makes sense, but like when you're going into surgery, that's not necessarily what you're thinking about. Do you know what I mean?
Are you kidding me? Social support is everything. Like, think about it. Human touch, connection is so important to healing, not just physically, but mentally. And think about the impacts of mental health on our physical well-being. They're also interconnected. This is why I say, like, we can segment the human body as much as we want. But if we don't attack it as synergistically, as one unit, one being, then we are doing a disservice.
So you're saying when you said before exercise is really good for health, that's because it affects our mood, it relates to the mental health, they're all kind of working together. I mean, like when I go for a swim, on the weekend, I met my friend Jay at the pool. So then we went for a swim, had that social connection after, then had the mental health benefit of just feeling good, and the level of appreciation for life after that swim is so much more. And another benefit I realized from swimming is I'm off my phone for like 45 minutes. Because I'm not like I used to be, where I was in the gym scrolling between sets. And so I didn't get that kind of health halo effect from being off the phone.
Yeah, that's so true.
That was my aha moment. It's like, oh, I know what's going on. Wait, to actually heal, you need to like eat a certain way, sleep a lot, not be stressed out, have a good social network, exercise, move your body, stretch. If you do all those things, you heal. When your body heals, it doesn't just heal a worn out joint in your neck or your back. It heals everything. It heals the worn out joint in your neck, your back. It heals the skin problem. It heals your digestive tract problem. It heals your hair issues. When your body heals, it heals everything.
Oh, he's such a nice guy. I think that's why the video did so well. He comes across as so nice.
Nice, yeah. He seems very kind.
The mosquitoes are driving me crazy, though.
No, I know. How is he actually dealing with that? I'd be like,
But also, do you ever think, like, okay, it's all well and good in theory going off the grid and just quitting your job, but in practice, what must it be like on the first day of just, oh, there's the mountain, yeah, I'm just chilling? Like, what is that feeling?
I think the older I get, the more I see why people want to detach from large spaces of human beings and wanting space and wanting grounding, wanting your feet to touch the earth in the morning, wanting your hands to be in the soil, taking some pride in your food system. And just let me have an acre where I can grow my tomatoes and my potatoes and my beans and plenty of nutrients, protein, vitamins, minerals, and vegetables. And everything that he's saying is you can heal yourself with plants. And imagine just comprehensively doing all of that together has to be a dream life. But I think that changes as you get older.
In theory, that's good. But have you ever been in a situation where you actually try and do it? Because so I had this feeling, yeah, when I was 19 years old, this guy came to my school a couple of years before and he cycled around the world. So I said to myself, I want to do that. So I got a ticket to Cordoba in Argentina and with my bike and my tent, but I didn't really think about it. And the moment it hit me was when I got to the airport and I was like, this sounds good, but when you're there, it's not. You don't know what to do.
Yeah, but that's like biking and camping around. You like took it to like the nth infinity degree. I would just go camping for a summer. You know, like there's like a little bit of leeway in that. Like you just went like, I'm going to have no transportation. I'm going to just travel around communities that I don't live in or have no experience with. And then camp there, like.
Yeah, it was tough. It was really weird. And until I met somebody on the way who cycled with me, that's when it started to get enjoyable.
Yeah.
It was very lonely before that.
I'm not really that kind of adventurer, I don't think.
Sarah would perish out in the wilderness.
Exactly. Like, I'm not really a wildernessy kind of person.
But you like having the finer things in life.
Yeah,
like
so I'm not like Bear Grylls vibe. I'm, more a luxury version.
And running toilets,
Yes.
Let's say everybody ate more veggies and fruits, watched the salt intake. They did things that made them sweat, like being outside in the summer, exercising, enjoying fresh air and the nature, and spending time with their loved ones. And they slept 8 hours every day, and they meditated, and they weren't stressed out. Let's just say everybody who had back problems in that town did that, and they got better. They healed. Then nobody needs spine surgery anymore. In fact, they probably don't need a lot of things.
I just want to say, if anybody's watching this video, either the original video or this video seeing this for the first time, you might be thinking, oh, it's just kind of anecdotal and it's just what this guy thinks. But as Sarah said earlier, this is exactly what the blue zones are doing. They're eating a near predominant or exclusive plant-based diet. They're sleeping well. They've got that community, the meditation. Also, Medicare in the US reimburses Dr. Ornish's diet and the Pritikin protocol. And there's 4 principles to that protocol, which is eating well, a nutrient-rich, minimally processed plant-based diet, move more. They say at least 30 minutes of moderate regular movement every day, stress less, and love more. So it's not just something this guy is saying, it's actually backed up on an institutional level.
Really felt like the focus of medicine wasn't in the right place. It wasn't in healing, it was in making money from surgeries and pills and images, whatever you can make money from. Again, I'm not knocking any particular place that I work. I work for very good hospitals. People have good intentions, but the incentives are not right in the whole system, this whole country's medical system. Probably not just this country, but most countries. It's not about prevention, it's about therapies. Once I figured out this problem, figured out what was going on, it was a huge problem for me ethically. I was doing surgeries that I knew weren't fixing the underlying problem.
I mean, this one's loaded. Our medical system is broken. I mean, United States, we are the wealthiest country, one of the wealthiest countries in the world, and yet we are the country of GoFundMes. I have health insurance. However, my health insurance may not cover 50, 60% of the things that I need. And that's not because of the company in which I work for is inadequate, not by any means. Listen, folks, it's not that we don't have enough to feed the poor. We just don't have enough to satisfy the rich. And that is why our system is broken. And if we're unwilling to look at the patient comprehensively to ensure that your wellness is a holistic approach, then longevity isn't the focus here. The focus is repair, move on. Next, repair, move on. Next. And it's a CAFO of medical care.
Yeah. And I guess he was saying, like, if he were to give the advice and whatever, then less people would come to the hospital, and then the hospital would make less money, and then he would look like he wasn't doing his job, so to speak, which is not good for his career, but also it wasn't good for his mental health either. Like, it's like a moral quandary, isn't it? It's like, I can do all these surgeries and I can make the hospital loads of money, but it's not actually helping the people in the way that he thought it would when he signed up to train. He was thinking he was going to like help everyone and it was going to be so great and wonderful, but it seems like the reality was far from that.
Wait a second, this isn't quite what I thought it was. I thought that if I do a perfect surgery, people are going to get better. And it wasn't always the case. The problem there is that if you figure out a way to help patients heal, and that way doesn't include a pill or a surgery, then the hospital and the doctor are in big trouble. Because if you figure out a way to help people heal and you can't charge them for it, well, then you've just worked yourself out of a job.
I think that's what you see with many practitioners like Dr. Dean Ornish, Dr. Furman, right? Dr. Baxter Montgomery. They are these cardiologists or they're medical practitioners that have seen a problem with the healthcare system and the approaches to the healthcare system. So they then themselves create their own practice where they can practice the way that they believe holistically can improve the health of their patients. And in those practices, sometimes doesn't take health insurance. And so that's a whole other approach to, well, how can the services you offer me make me healthier, make me feel better?
Yeah, I wonder if that's where he'll go. Maybe like if he will start doing like lifestyle medicine, because at the moment he said he'd spoke to his wife and they had enough savings for him to quit so that he could save his mental health. But I don't think that's his full-time idea, is not to just walk with his dog in the mountains every day. I think maybe he will go towards doing something. I'd be intrigued to see where he goes next.
Yeah, a lot of the plant-based doctors that I know personally, they have to continue working in the system, and then they're doing the plant-based advocacy on the side. Yeah. Obviously, there are exceptions. Dr. Dean Ornish, some of these pioneers, like Shabnam, the organization you're working for, right? It's allowed you to do this full-time as somebody who's got a PhD in exercise physiology, right? You've not had to go into the system in that way. You've been able to meaningfully promote lifestyle medicine.
Well, I was a lecturer in college for 10 years. And then, I did some work in a hospital as an exercise physiologist in the cardiac rehab units. But on top, I had to have multiple jobs to sustain life. And I think that's dependent upon, the economic infrastructure of your country that you're living in. There's so many other interplaying variables, right? What we say is multifactorial, right? It's not just for my health, but my health is also my financial health, my literacy. There's so many things that go into what make us healthy. And with that comes an exceptional cost. And I think that these are the things that we have to remember, is that if we really want a healthier community, we want a smarter community, we want a more robust workforce, then we need to create systems in place in our countries that allow for access to great food, healthy food, access to healthcare, socialized healthcare. It should be a human right. And then, of course, housing. So when you take these things, you take education, you take housing, you take food, you start to create wellness for your communities that they feel protected and they're able to thrive. And then people aren't working jobs where they're sacrificing those particular things just so they can make an income so that they can fulfill other means. So this is why we say health is multifactorial. You need to think about the epigenetic factors. You need to think about community. You need to think about nutrition. You need to think about exercise. You need to think about education. Why? Because they all matter comprehensively.
The comment here sums up what you're saying. Here I am, a 35-year-old lawyer sitting at my desk. I do not know if I'm bored out or burnt out at this point, watching diving videos, Diving has been something I've always wanted to do, but never did for no tangible reason. Your video pops up out of nowhere, and now I'm crying my eyes out like a toddler. Thank you for sharing and inspiring.
I think this is the same thing with like Rich Roll, for example, right? He worked a high stress job as an executive lawyer and then was just burnt out, making lots of money, just burnt out. His health was on the low end of the spectrum. And then he gave it all up, right? And then he became this ultra marathon runner. He was doing amazing things, went completely vegan, started this podcast, and it changed his entire life and his trajectory. Everyone is struggling. Everyone is stressed. No one knows when their next paycheck is coming. People are losing their housing. They may not know where they're getting their next meal. We see you. We know that. And what we're trying to say is, if you can just start to focus a little bit on the things that hopefully give you some peace, hopefully, that's a step in the right direction, right? But
Yeah.
I think that's important for us to preface, because this video is very, very, very poignant. It means a lot. It's inspiring. But there are going to be a lot of people that go, well, look at that privileged guy that can do that. Lucky for him, he's a neurosurgeon. Of course, he can just quit his job and go. So I want to preface that the things that he's talking about are all because he has social support. He has the financial ability to eat where he wants and to sunbathe and forest bathe and to quit his job to find peace somewhere else.
Yeah, agreed.
When I started Plant-Based News, it was never meant to be a full-time thing. And I've seen a lot of charities and organizations and people try and be like founders or be innovators and create something, a product, like a CPG product or an energy company. And the thing that I've noticed is the mistake they make is they're already thinking about like how in the first few months they're going to be able to pay themselves. My advice is just get a job that you're not really that invested in. Like me, I was a bike courier, for the first year. Just do a simple job, and then on the side, hustle and do your passion. Another comment says, I quit an office management job at 43 and started cleaning houses for the exercise and supplement income. I'm now 58, still cleaning 22 hours a week. I'm healthier and feel great physically, spiritually, mentally. The point isn't to become a cleaner or a bike courier. The point is to actually put your health and well-being and spirituality first.
Yeah.
There are going to be points in time where you need to take care of you. You need to take care of you. You need to do a job that does what? It pays the bills, but maybe it's not stressful and you can turn off your brain at 5 o'clock and do whatever you want. And I say, as a previous educator for a decade, you never get to turn off the clock. You've done teaching, you're grading papers, you have office hours. Your life is taking care of other people's children or adult children. That's the life you choose. And at this point in time, when you're not paying someone enough to do those kinds of jobs, there's high levels of stress attached with those kind of jobs. So guess what? Leave them. Do what's good for you. And I don't think enough people say that. But if you don't take care of you, first and foremost, you are no good to anyone else. So a little bit of selfishness goes a very long way. And I actually don't want to say that it's even being selfish. It's a priority. Prioritize you. Because I think too many people in this lifetime compromise themselves away. I'll give you this. I'll say yes. I'll give you this. I give you this. And I give you this. And before you know it, your battery level is at 0.001 because you've just given all your energy away to everyone else. That has a lasting physical effect and not in a positive manner.
Yeah, and I guess if you don't take care of yourself first, then your body will make you stop. Do you know what I mean? And not at a time that's going to be convenient.
Pain is an indicator that something is wrong. So oftentimes when I hear practitioners, people go like, no pain, no gain. I'm like, and then find yourself a new practitioner.
This couldn't be further from the truth. It's ridiculous.
It's ridiculous. And so imagine trying to reteach students that are kinesiologists, movement specialists, out of that mindset because they've been taught so much through media before they even get to college to learn the actual scientific prowess of what they really want to do. We have to untrain what they've learned from the masses so they can actually really learn the science and the scientific approach, and then teach the masses, hey, what you learned in media is actually not true. And so that's the whole system with healthcare. We've done such a great job of marketing because what he said, people need to profit. It's a capitalistic system.
And what's the way to sneak it in, Shabnam? Do we overemphasize the fact that they work together? So we still need the interventions in the radiology and the neuroscience, neurosurgery, but just to help people's recovery, go plant-based and sleep well and have community? Is the truth more like actually 80% of it is lifestyle and only 20% of it is a medical model?
I think the preventative approach should be applied first before there's some sort of medical intervention. Not to say that if somebody comes in with stage 4 cancer, I'm going to say, I'm not giving you chemo and radiation. Let's just do a diet manipulation. That's also not the best approach, right? I'm not an oncologist, and I'm sure plenty of oncologists would not. They want to save the patient. So I think it is dependent upon the situation of the patient. But also, if we did take more of a preventative approach in lifestyle, I think the need for surgery, the amount, the demand, the requirement that we see in our current state wouldn't be as robust as we see today. We wouldn't see as many people needing spinal surgery if they weren't sitting at a desk for 16 hours a day in high stress jobs, or commuting 4 hours a day in a car, or, and eating poorly, eating fast food because they're in their car for 4 hours a day. You see, they all interlay with one another.
Amen to that. Just to wrap up on this video, we're going to link this guy's channel down below. So he's pumping out a lot of content. So definitely check it out. And let us know what you think and whether you could do something like what he has done.